We're going to make a clickable on-screen button. So we're going to start out by making a rectangle to serve as the button that we will eventually click. So let's make it a red button. And then I'm going to make a rectangle, and let's have it at 200 pixels over. Let's say 200 pixels down, and make it 100 pixels wide and 50 pixels high. All right, this will be our button. So to make a button using conditional statements, we want to check to see if the mouse cursor is between the left edge and the right edge of the button area, the top and the bottom edges of the button area, and if the mouse itself is pressed. So that's a bunch of conditions. The first way we're going to do this is to make one long conditional statements using the logical operator and quite a few times. So we're going to do that first, and then after that we are going to reorganize the code to the sort of stylistically preferred method, which makes it easier to read, a little less confusing, and also more importantly, each conditional will check just one variable, and so that'll be the preferred way, but we're going to start with the long single conditional way. So I'm going to start with my if, and so I'm going to check to see if the cursor is to the right of the left edge, so on the button side of the left edge of the rectangle. So my first parameter is 200. I have my rectangle is 200 pixels over from the left edge of the screen. So I want to check to see if my the x value of my mouse x variable, is greater than 200. So I know it's on this side, the right side of the left edge of the button. So mouse x is greater than 200, 2 ampersands for my logical operator and. So now I'm going to check to see if my cursor is to the left, the button side, of the right edge of the button. If my rectangle's coordinate at the upper left corner is at 200, 200, so if this is 200 along the x-axis and the rectangle is 100 pixels wide, the left edge must be at 300. So mouse x is less than 300. Now I'm going to move on to mouse y, checking the top and the bottom. So again, I want to check to see if my mouse cursor is below this top edge, so if it's greater than this top edge. And the top edge is at 200 on the y-axis, so more ampersands. Mouse y is greater than 200. And I need to check to see if it's above the bottom edge, so on the button side of the bottom edge. And so again, if the rectangles, if the y parameter is 200 and it's 50 pixels high, mouse y is less than on the button side of, I should probably spell that correctly, 250. So the top edge plus the height. Now finally, last condition, I have to check to see if the button itself is pressed. So one last logical and, mouse pressed. Oops, I'm going to make this a little wider. Mouse pressed equals true. Open a curly bracket, close the curly bracket, and now I need some action. So I don't know, I'm just going to have a rectangle appear in the upper left corner. So now if I run this, move so you can see, if I click the button and hold down, the rectangle appears. If I'm not inside the button area, no square, and I do have to press down to make that happen because of this mouse pressed. Now, that works, and that's good, and that's fine, and it's very long. We had to widen the our editor window, and it's just really, it's tricky to read. It's a little complicated. Generally, the rule of thumb is you only want to check one kind of variable in each conditional statement. So if we have 3 different variables, mouse x, 2 instances of mouse x, 2 instances of mouse Y, and a mouse pressed, we're going to want 3 conditional statements nested inside one another. So we're going to open a conditional statement, then open another conditional statement right after that, and then finally open a third conditional statement, and then put our action item, this rectangle function here, inside all 3 of them. So all 3 sets of conditions need to be true in order for this action to be carried out. So I'm going to address mouse X as I did before, but instead of continuing on, I'm going to close that conditional by closing the parentheses and putting the open curly bracket here. I'm going to hit enter. It automatically indents the next this line, and that helps us read our code. So I'm going to change this ampersand to an if and open another parentheses, and now I've got a conditional nested inside a conditional. So I still have my open curly bracket. This one is nested inside, and it will. So now I want to go on and address just mouse Y. So I've got if mouse Y is greater than 200, got another instance of mouse Y. This is where we finish checking to see the conditions for the mouse Y variable. I'm going to close the parentheses, open another curly bracket, hit enter. It indents it again for me. I'm going to get rid of this logical operator and put another if, open another set of parentheses. So now I've got 3 conditional statements, all one right inside the other. So all 3 of these conditional statements will need to be true in order for this to carry out. I need to do one more thing. I've got 1, 2, 3 curly brackets opened, but only 1 closed. So now I need to close all of them. So I'm going to hit enter and close the second one. You can see a rectangle appears around the matching bracket, and close the third one. And of course I still have this close conditional down here. This is a little wonky. If I hit Command T, that's auto format, and then you can see that the conditional or the closed curly bracket will line up on that same level of indentedness with the if that goes with it. This one lines up, this one lines up, this close for the whole draw lines up with draw. You don't need to do that, it just makes it a little clearer to see. So this does the exact same thing. It's just a little bit easier to read. We don't need our screen to be quite so wide. And so this really is the preferred way. So I just only address the one variable, the conditions of one variable in each one of the conditional statements.